I believe that the number one talked about word in 2026 is going to be retention. I think it's kind of always been floating out there, but even the GMs and dealer principals that don't understand service are starting to ask, okay, what's retention? How can I make it happen? Customers will buy from someone that has social media 84% more than they will for somebody that doesn't. They trust them, they know them, they recognize them. For me, social media put us on the map selling tires. When I started using social media, my tire sales went up 1,400%.
Welcome to Retention Roadmap, navigating service success for new car dealerships. I'm your host, Bill Springer. Today's podcast is sponsored by DriveSure. DriveSure helps new car dealerships remain the go-to provider for maintenance, tires, and repairs. For information on how DriveSure can help your dealership, go to drivesure.com/dealership solutions. My guest today is Eddie Campbell, making his return to the Retention Roadmap podcast, and notably our first repeat guest. Eddie is well known in the industry for his hands-on leadership style, his deep roots in service operations, and his ability to translate what actually happens in the service drive into real-world results. Most recently, Eddie served as general manager of Forest Lane Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Dallas, Texas, after rising through the ranks from service director. Today, we're going to talk about what he learned about making that transition, how service experience shapes leadership across an entire dealership, and how he sees the service retention landscape evolving, especially as vehicle sales remain under pressure. So, Eddie, welcome back to the podcast. Great to have you here.
Hello, Bill Springer. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Good. Wonderful.
Great to see you, as always.
Good to be back.
Yeah. So let's just jump right in. Thanks for being our first repeat guest. I think we're right at about
honor.
Episode number 40. So
Congrats.
Yeah, I really appreciate having you on board again. So talk a little bit about what's changed since we last spoke 40 episodes ago, which is probably a year and a half or so ago.
Yeah, I believe it was. As a matter of fact, I think I was a guest on yours. Was the first time I was on somebody else's podcast.
Okay.
So I've done many since then. So
You have.
and I'm still having technical difficulties constantly. So that's on my end.
We all do.
And so yeah, getting better at it and just kind of honing my craft on the podcast world. And podcasts are getting bigger. My joke is that I have a podcast too called Eddie in Service, and there's 4.5 million podcasts in the world, and I'm at 4.1. So I'm moving up. I'm better than 400,000 people.
Gotta keep track.
Yeah. So
That's
I'm
great.
trying to get better at it. Maybe I'll hit 4 million soon.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. I have no doubt. So let's talk about a little bit about your experience, Eddie. And I'm really interested in, and I think our audience is also interested in hearing about your experience and kind of moving from the service end of things into a general management role. And what kind of surprised you most in terms of moving from your role as a service director into that general manager seat?
I think the most surprising thing, maybe it wasn't a surprise, you don't know what you don't know till you get there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're kind of doing it backwards. I wish I had gone to GM school, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I think I would have been a better service director. There's just things you don't know. I mean, if I could count on 6 hands how many used car managers I've argued with over the years on certain things. Now I'm on the other side of the fence going, oh, that's why he didn't want to fix that, or that's why he wanted to do it this way, or whatever. You just think he's cheap, doesn't want to fix the car, doesn't care, and it's not that at all. It's the used car market is brutal. And I found out that was my hardest part. I called a GM friend of mine, and actually he called me to check on me, and he said, how's it going? I said, man, it's going great. I said, actually, being GM is easier than being a service director, but I can't figure out used cars.
Yeah.
And he said, Eddie, I've been doing it 20 years. He goes, anybody that tells you they got it figured out is a liar. Made me feel better.
Yeah.
But I still, it's just so hard to buy cars. And I think, I made fun of Carvana for a while, but I think they've kind of got it figured out that, they're buying a few dealerships right now.
Right.
And they're
In
not
the
buying
Dallas
it to
market,
sell
right?
new. Yeah. 10 minutes from my store. Yeah.
Yeah.
And their first month, they were number 1 in the country by 100 cars. I mean, nobody came close. And they're not doing it to sell new cars. They're doing it to get the trades. And it's really smart of them. So I think we're going to have to change the way we do things. And I love that kind of outside the box thinking. So
Yeah.
we're still doing the same thing, trying to buy cars, at auctions and get good trade ins and things like that. But I think you have to have a somebody from sales in the service department looking for cars when they come in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen the same trouble all over the country, this past year in particular. And, even customers, dealers in Hawaii are sending folks to the mainland all over, the US looking for vehicles that are appealing and would make sense to actually ship from the mainland to Hawaii and still make money on. So, it's a whole different world.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard it's pretty tough. And I've been to, I think I was in Alaska. And of course, when you're a car guy, most people go there to look at the woods and the trees and the bears. And I'm looking for
Yeah.
dealerships
Yeah.
just to see what they look like.
Yeah.
And it's definitely harder in Hawaii and Alaska than it is in the main
Yeah, it's a different
states.
different
Yeah.
environment for sure. Sticking with the move into the GM role, Eddie, what did you understand about what do you think you understood about being a GM that only became clear once you were in that role?
It's been teased over my head for years, talking to dealer principals. Hey, I think you make a great GM. I think you'll get there, and obviously they see something in you, I think, in the leadership side of it for service to think that it's good enough to move into the GM role. The and it's the same here. I think you have to have they have to be able to trust you with the entire store. I believe a lot of GMs don't, but I believe you have to have a really good culture, and the employees. I mean, they're the ones that carry the store. If they don't believe in you, you're going to fail.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, we see that from a leadership perspective, just anecdotally, when I look at retention statistics for our longtime dealership customers, I see a really strong correlation between those dealerships that have a high retention rate and those dealerships that have really strong employee retention. When customers are used to seeing the same
Hmm.
faces when they're coming in for service again and again, it really does help create a bond, not only with the service advisor in this case, but also with the dealership in general. And I think that's absolutely key. What do you think? When you talk to, and obviously you've had tons of experience in dealerships, but what do you think GMs who don't come up through the service end, which is pretty rare for GMs in general, I think, to come up through the service side. What do you think those who don't come up through service tend to underestimate about service in the role as a general manager?
Just like with me, I told you it's reversed. I wish I would have
Yeah.
gone to GM school 20 years ago. It would have made me a better service director. I think if GMs had to really go through some kind of service experience, and I don't mean go hang out in the service drive for 3 days. I
Yeah.
think they should have to work a drive for even 90 days because I've known some stores that made the GM go to service for 30 days. There's a lot of problems that linger on for months, and you don't see the final end of that. So I think it'd be good for both the GMs and service directors to do each other's job for a little bit and maybe have more faith. But I think a lot of GMs have an ego
Hmm.
and they prefer that sales is where they make the money and service is just kind of a nuisance,
Hmm.
and I actually knew a dealer principal when he first bought a franchise. He asked the manufacturer if he could not have a service department. And I think that's a lot of the mentality. And if they knew what I knew, which is that the service department should pay all the bills, and it can, but you
Hmm.
got to have the support of the GM or the dealer principal to make that
Right.
happen.
Right.
If you're just so many GMs come in and they drop down that internal rate, they're stealing from their self, when they do that. And
Yeah.
uh, that's because they don't understand service.
Yeah. Yeah. In terms of service retention, just kind of talking about service retention in general, Eddie, as we sit here in early 2026, give us your perspective on what the kind of landscape for service and service retention looks like going forward into 2026 and even beyond, based upon the current realities of the market.
Yeah, I think when we talked about a month ago, I said, I believe that the number one talked about word in 2026 is going to be retention.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of always been floating out there, but even the GMs and dealer principals that don't understand service are starting to ask, okay, what's retention? How can I make it happen? Because in this industry, we're so focused on 30 days. It's hard to build retention in 30 days. It takes
Mm-hmm.
about 3 or 4 years to do
Mm-hmm.
that. And if you don't have that long set goal, there's a dealership here in Dallas that gets a new GM every 4 to 6 months. I think they're on number 8 or 9 now in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
They're never going to have retention.
Yeah.
They're not hiring leaders, they're hiring bosses or managers. And I think retention is a feeling in the dealership, and customers can feel it. They can see it in the eyes of your employees. They're not going to want to come back there. And I think there's a lot of it. So dealers, I know customers that drive past 3 or 4 stores to get to mine because they've had bad treatment at those stores.
Yeah, so true. And it's so easy to, it's easy to make a short-term impact coming in by just slashing and burning expenses and that type of thing. But
Yeah.
boy, you're going to, all too often, you're going to pay for it down the road.
Yeah. In interviews over the years, they always ask questions like, say, what's your strongest thing that you bring to the table? And I always tell them it's culture.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, what is your worst thing that's about you? And I say, I keep employees too long, because it's really expensive to switch them out. And a lot of people don't look at that.
Yeah.
And these new dealerships, they'll come in and they'll fire everybody. They haven't even given anybody a chance. And I get it. They're trying to get to a point faster. But there's a lot of good people out there. And I've seen bad dealerships with good people and good dealerships with bad people. But I think if I can educate and teach an employee to be better at their job and treat customers better, it's a lot better. Just keep firing over and over and over, hoping it gets better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, I think that's a common problem amongst many of us. I had someone who I admire quite a bit in respect as a leader tell me the most expensive time for a leader is the time between when you identify a problem employee and when you take action on it. And that time between can be painful, and you look back and say, oh, why didn't I move quicker for everyone's benefit, not only the dealership or the business's benefit, but that employee too, because, things happen and sometimes people wind up in a position that is not in their best interest. And we just have to help move them along to their better you're
journey. Not doing them any favors by not telling them what they did wrong, for sure.
No, for sure. We know that you're a big believer in tires as a big defection point, and we know that in terms of looking at the data. In fact, we've got our 2025 dealership service retention report that we just finished surveying about 1,400 customers of new car dealerships, and I just got a first peek at the data yesterday, a preliminary look at the data, and we ask a lot of questions around awareness of tires. And, tires are still one of those things that customers don't think of the dealership for. I know that you've recognized this for a long time. I was wondering if you can talk a little bit about what you've seen and how the importance of tires has really become even more important going forward, because we know it's a big defection point.
Yeah, and you just said it's a defection point. It's actually the number one defection point from a dealership. That kind of goes back to GMs not understanding service. They don't care about tires. So, they're only here for 30 days. But if you stocked tires right, only 33% of customers know that dealerships sell tires.
Yeah.
So if you decorated your showroom with tires, I always tell them, my managers, I want it to smell like rubber when you walk in. And I've seen it. I've set up displays where the customer walks in. Before they sit down, they almost always walk down, look at all the tires, and then go sit down. So I know, okay, they're looking, they're interested,
Right.
And so it's not a defection, it's the number one defection rate. So the reason that is because they don't know that you sell tires as a dealership. So in 30,000 miles, 33,000 miles, it's about the time the warranty goes out. They need a set of tires. So they end up going to an aftermarket brand like NTB that they know sells tires because it's on every other street and there's signs. So they go in there and they say, hey, I need a set of tires. They're going, great. While you're here, you need a 30,000 mile service. And they go, oh, well, I get that done at the dealership. I go, oh, well, we can do that too. We could do everything right here and your warranty's out anyway. There's no really reason to go back to the dealership. And then they never go back. So in another year, they're ready to buy a new car. There's nothing to attach them to the dealership that they just bought the car from 3.5 years ago.
Right.
So they're going to switch brands. They don't care that they've had a Nissan or a Mitsubishi or a Mercedes. They're going to go somewhere else because there's nothing to connect them with that dealership. So
Yeah.
if a GM or a dealer principal could see that retention road 4 years out, the first place to start is in the service department with tires. And, like that dealership I was telling you about that has a new GM every 4 to 6 months, he's not worried about 3 years from now.
Right.
He's just trying to keep his job for 6 months.
Yeah.
So it's got to be a plan. It can't just be a hope that it works.
One of the things that stood out in this report that we'll be releasing here in the next month or so is that I think the headline is satisfaction does not equal retention. That same customer that you just described that went to NTB for tires very often describes themselves as extremely satisfied and extremely loyal to the dealership, yet because that awareness of tires is low or non-existent, they just assume that they have to go somewhere else. And as you said, once they go somewhere, it's tough to get them back. And so I think the real challenge is raising that level of awareness amongst all your customers, and remembering that you're constantly bringing in new customers to your service drive from customers who have bought new vehicles and are coming in for their first service, their second service, and that type of thing. And those customers may not be aware of the fact that your dealership sells tires. So it's a constant source of re-education. And as I'm fond of saying, you cannot over communicate about tires to your customers. You can't do it.
No.
Yeah.
And I was thinking last night, how many things there are out there that dealerships could use as retention. Of course, tires came to my head first. Your product, definitely second. Social media. I could just answering the phone, which they have AI for that now, and there's still dealers that don't sign up for it.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of procrastination and I don't want to say laziness, but just not wanting to change. And as you know, over the years, dealerships are always 5-10 years behind on that, because 10 years ago, there's a good chance you might not have been able to make money on tires. Nowadays, you can make money on tires. It's not a loss. It's not a loss leader like it used to be.
Right.
I haven't lost money on tires in years.
Yeah.
So
they
they don't focus on it.
Yep. I'm glad you brought up social media, Eddie, because I want to shift to that. I think social media can be one of those things that can really add to the level of transparency between the dealership and the vehicle owner. And I'm curious in terms of what role do you think social media plays today in terms of helping dealerships strengthen that bond between themselves and their customers and making sure customers return again and again?
So here in Texas, I'm in a t-shirt right now, and I was just sitting out on my patio, and it's a really nice day. In 2 days, we got like 6 inches of snow coming to Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have social media, you have a relationship with your customer. You could go on right then and make a post and say, hey, we're not open until noon today because of the ice, but we are open. We're having a special today, an ice special. Come on in. I mean, it's an instant way to communicate with your customers that are sitting at home. I've heard of dealerships using social media on snow days and having the biggest day of the year because of what I just told you. So social media is that relationship with the customer that's direct. They see you, they know you. Customers will buy from someone that has social media 84% more than they will for somebody that doesn't. They trust them, they know them, they recognize them. For me, social media put us on the map selling tires. When I started using social media, my tire sales went up 1,400%. We found out really quick we weren't ready to be in the tire business because we couldn't handle it. And at one point we had more Fords and Chevys than we did Dodges in my dealership buying tires because we hit it really hard with social media.
Yeah.
And I just think it's another retention tool that may not be around in 7 or 8 years. So I think we should take advantage of it now. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper and maybe bore everyone. But with AI coming in so strong, right now, AI is taking from all of our content, even me and you talking right now, there's about 1,000 AI companies. They're going to be using this content right here. I think the government's going to step in and fix it where they can't without a license and things like that. And I know companies right now that you could sell this content to, and only you and them would have access to it. But with AI coming in so strong, it's only going to give the person asking that AI questions what's out there. So if you're a dealership that's not using social media, AI can't go and pull anything from you. It doesn't know anything from you. But the people that are using it, and this is probably a year or two that it's going to be that strong. If you're not present on social media, you won't be present on AI. And I think a lot of places are missing out. And I visited a dealership yesterday, really old one, been paid for 50 years, old family dealership. Service manager is the nicest guy ever, but he was promoted to service manager 20 years ago and has never had any training, never been to any events, or he only knows what he came in with 20 years ago. They have zero social media. I didn't see any tires anywhere. I'm just looking at and thinking about their retention is only customers that have been coming there for a while that they know and have a relationship with. But social media could turn that dealership around real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, the combination of social media and AI, as you mentioned, is so true. And true story, last night I was doing some research around service retention. I can't remember exactly what the query I put in was, but my podcast came up as one of the sources. I'm like, well, okay, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great that it came up as a resource. And
yeah. So you've been doing this a year and a half now.
Yeah.
You have a huge head start in AI that you didn't even know about.
Exactly. Yeah.
Had you put it off and got started late, you might not have came up with as one of those references.
Right. Right.
So these dealerships that are, and I see a few of them that are playing around with it, which is nice. At least they're doing something. But I think the social media has to be so much that whenever somebody's talking about a car or whatever in their living room, they're going to get a social media post from you later. And I know some successful dealerships that it's part of the salesman's pay plan where they have to make 10 videos a day. And it sounds like a lot, but because I've been a GM now, which I suspected anyway before I got up front, those salesmen have a lot of time on their hands.
Mm-hmm.
So you can either call 100 people, cold call, and not get one single thing on it, or go spend 45 minutes making some really good videos that people are watching.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, because there's a lot of people who just don't pick up the phone these days, unless it's a known number.
They don't.
Yeah. As we kind of wind down our time together here, Eddie, looking forward, what advice would you have for, I guess, two questions. What advice would you have for service directors who, from a career path, really would like to become GMs? So I'll stop at that point and let you answer that question before I ask you the next one.
I think a lot of people want it, but they don't do the things it takes to get there. So, I'm friends with a lot of service managers. I've seen them, even the ones I don't know, but they want to go home at 4:00, and or they want to come in at 9 and leave at 5 and never work Saturdays. They don't know. I mean, you have to work hard to get to where you're going. I started out changing oil, and made it to general manager, but I'm that guy that worked all those hours and, drive 2 hours a day, hour at work in the morning, hour home. So you're gone a lot from home.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not for everybody. I know lots of advisors and salesmen that are happy being advisors and salesmen. I've even tried to promote them and they're like, no, I'm good. Cause it does come with another handful of stress.
Yeah. And then my final question is, if you were given advice to general managers or service directors, what's the one thing that you would tell them to do to protect their customer relationships and make sure that customers continue to return back for service and hopefully buy another car?
I preach be nice all the time. I preach it to
Mhm.
customers because they got to do their part, and I teach it to advisors and GMs. Um, it sounds really goofy, but
Mm-mm.
being kind and being nice. I remember coming up through my career, I had several GMs tell me, "You're too nice. You need to go fire your favorite tech. Let everybody know you're serious." Those are the kind of things that blows my mind.
Yeah.
Luckily, it's getting better over the years. I think that the days of yelling and screaming, they've got to be over. This new generation ain't putting up with it.
No.
And, I remember, this is late 80s, early 90s, but, GMs coming in and slapping a Coke off the desk and Coke going everywhere and yelling and screaming. There's still some that do that to this day. And I think their time is almost over because
Yeah.
we need Gen Z. And when you yell and scream at one of them, they're gone. And you're just
Mhm.
going to be going through that repetition. So
Yeah.
I think being kind and being nice, and it finally did me good. I think I was 53 years old when people started hiring me because I was nice,
Yeah.
but it was hard to keep that with so many people saying nice guys finish last, and they don't.
No. Yeah, I think kindness is underrated, and you can certainly be kind, but also hold people accountable.
Of course, I always tell them, I'm really nice, but don't think that I'm weak.
Yeah, exactly.
I've fired my best friend 3 times over the last 30 years, and I love him, but and it was because he wasn't nice.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, Eddie, thanks very much for joining us today. If any of our listeners want to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do so?
It's Eddie in Service everywhere. Eddie in Service, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, and I have a website, eddieinservice.com. You can contact me through there. And you can hear my stuff on Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to podcasts. And I guess I'm going to see you at NADA.
Yes, we'll be there.
How many years have you been a speaker there? Is it just 2 or has it been more than that?
This will be my 3rd year being a speaker
Okay.
there. Yeah.
I'm excited to hear you again. Congratulations.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'll see you there.
Super. Thank you, Eddie. Thanks again for being on the podcast. Look forward to seeing you in Las Vegas in a couple of weeks.
All right. I'll see you there.
Thanks, Eddie.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You've been listening to Retention Roadmap, navigating service success for new car dealerships. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.